Right, hello and welcome to this 40k battle report. What we've got today is 2,000 points of Tyranids, and they're taking on a new force. We've got Space Wolves, so it's going to be really interesting to see how this one shapes up. New army, it's always good to see on the channel. Against the Nidzilla list, tried and tested. Tyranids, I've had mixed success on the channel. I don't think this particular list has ever actually lost, but they're going to have a really stern test here in the Space Wolves. Tyranids are quite intimidated, looks like a really tough army we'll come up against today. We're playing Emperor's Will, so Tyranids have placed an objective right there, and the Space Wolves, they've got their objective right there. It's hammer and anvil deployment, so we're facing off. It's quite an open bit of terrain today. We've got a bit of ruins, which both sides sort of shake and shelter in across from this sort of area of no man's land in the middle. In terms of deployment, Tyranids, we've gone here, and we've got the Carnifexes and Exocrine out front, warriors in behind, two half tyrants over there. In reserve, we've got the Trigons, and then for the Space Wolves, we've got some Terminators out here, Thunderwolf cavalry, then the sort of regular squads. I'm not really sure what they're called. The Blood Claws, yeah, Grey Hunters in the building as well. More Thunderwolf cavalry out there, and then more Terminators there. So we'll look at those, and then in reserve, I believe it's just the Stormfang. So we'll look at those armies in more detail right now. Right, so this is the 2,000 point Tyranid force we're running today. Is an unbound list just because, well, technically, we got 2 troop choices, but then we got 4 heavy support. Just because, I mean, I could easily drop one of these monstrous creatures, take an extra troop choice, take an elite choice, whatever. That might actually be a more sensible choice, but then doesn't really fit the theme of the army. We've got leading the army 2 winged hive tyrants. This guy is the warlord. They've got their various psychic powers there. Both of them have regeneration. Both of them have 2 sets of twin-linked devourers. Troops choices, we've got 2 broods of warriors, adrenal glands, flesh hooks, and the back one in each brood has lash whip and a bone sword. We've got a brood of 3 Carnifexes. We've got twin-linked devourers on all of them as well. And then, well, that's 2 sets of twin-linked devourers, and so the same as the hive tyrants, basically. And regeneration on every single one of them. Exocrine, regeneration, and 2 Trigons with regeneration. So that's it. As I said, don't normally do Unbound, but at the same time, it really fits with the theme of just having all those monstrous creatures. Regeneration on every single one of them for the 4-up regaining wounds. And that is quite a lot if you consider the 2 hive tyrants and these guys. Tons and tons of Daka with the twin-linked devourers. Okay, and then we've got the 2,000 points of Space Wolves. First time they've appeared on the channel. It's a really good looking army, looking very well painted as well. Nice diversity to the list. There's a little bit of flyers, a little bit of cavalry, which Space Wolves are so famous for. We've got some Terminators in there, and of course the infamous Wolfen. But yeah, we'll start over here with the warlord.
So you got Nigel Stormcaller as the warlord, and he's in the squad of the 5 Terminators, all equipped with wolf claws, 1 storm shield, storm bolters, and then 1 assault cannon. Then behind you've got the Stormfang gunship with twin-link Hellfrost cannons, twin-link las cannons, 2 twin-link multi-melters. Nothing in that, it's just purely for show and flying about, as it does so well. Centering into the middle, we've got the
going there.
2nd squad of Terminators with Heavy Flamer, 1 Power Fist, 2 Wolf Claws, 1 Thunder Hammer, the Captain with Power Sword, and then Ayak Rock Fist with his Storm Shield, and I can't remember what Thunder Hammer was called, it's got a name.
Yeah, that's no worries.
Behind you've got the 6-man squad of Grey Hunters, all with close combat weapons and 1 plasma gun. Same again, another squad of those. Beside them, in front of them are the Wolfen, squad of 5. The leader has 2 Frost Claws, 2 Thunderhammer Storm Shields, 1 Frost Axe, and then another one with 2 Frost Claws. Then in the front we've got 3 Thunderwolf, Frost Axe, Frost Sword, Thunder Hammer with Storm Shields all round. And then the 2nd squad has Power Fist, Wolf Claw and Frost Sword, all with Storm Shields all round, and then finally 10-man squad of Blood Claws with Lucas the Trickster within them as well.
Great, thanks very much. So first time we've had Space Wolves on the channel. It's going to be really interesting to see how they get on. It's a fantastic looking army. I'm loving the blue, like the sort of tone of the blue on the paint job there. Looks really good. Can't wait to see how they get on. Right, so that was the two armies. As we said, both sides are now deployed, ready to start the match. It will be Tyranids have got first turn, unless the Space Wolves can seize on a 6. So, 3. So, Tyranid turn 1, coming right up. Right, Tyranid turn 1, movement, very simple. These guys have begun swooping, going forward towards these targets here. These guys slightly pinned down by the ruins, making them move through cover rolls, and just sort of generally moving forward. Psychic phase coming right up. Psychic phase then, Catalyst cast by this Hive Tyrant, giving both of them feel no pain. Then tried to get the horror off onto this squad, deny the witch roll to actually maze, that didn't go off. And then finally onslaught casted here, so this guy's going to get a run move on top of his shooting, which will help push him up there a bit quicker, which is nice. Right, shooting phase then, and end of Tyranid turn 1. Fire from the Exocrine. Landed his large blast template here, hit 3, 2 invulnerable saves made, but 1 Terminator was taken out. Then we had combined fire from both of these guys, these units out of range, just running up. These guys combining fire, 24 Twinning Devourer shots, killed 2 of the Thunderwolf Cavalry, just 1 left. Made his morale check afterwards. It's annoying because we did want to kind of try and nick first blood, but that was probably about as close as we were going to get realistically. But yeah, not a bad round for of shooting for the Tyranids. No assaults, of course, in this turn 1. So, Space Wolf turn 1 coming right up. Right, movement for the Space Wolves in their turn 1. So, we've got Terminators pushing up here. Last of that Thunderwolf Cavalry pushing up as well. They won't be able to assault the Tyranids flyers here because they're swooping. Then over here, big push up on the left flank. All of these units sort of moving around, trying to close that gap into there. And we've got these units in the ruins that are just staying put. Right, so then Psychic Powers from the Warlord here. Tried to cast off a sort of Force Lightning type thing. What was it called?
Living Lightning.
Living Lightning. Went in here. Inflicted 3 wounds on the Carnifexes, but then they made all of their saves. So that was fine. And then other power failed to manifest. So straight on into shooting. Right, so shooting phase done for the Space Wolves. And it's actually the end of their turn as well. So we had run moves over here. These guys pushing up. Getting close to the Tyranids. There'll be some combat next turn, probably. Then over here, we had these squads. All of them firing at the Hive Tyrants. And got a bit excited when one of the Plasmas, he had 2 Plasma hits on this Hive Tyrant. But he had declared he was jinking, or evading. I can't remember the exact term is in this edition. But yeah, made one of the evades. Other went through, made his feel no pain. So he's snap firing next turn, but he's just managed to escape any damage. And then over here, a bit of fire from this squad of this Hive Tyrant. Again, all misses with this Thunderwolf Cavalry also pushing up. So got off lightly there, the Tyranids. Could have been a lot worse, but good result there for the Space Wolves, being that this Hive Tyrant will not be able to sort of, you know, bring to bear his full firepower next turn. As we move into Tyranid turn 2. Right, Tyranid movement. So the Warlord Hive Tyrant, he's just continued flying on up this way. In from reserve, we've got one of the Trigons. He actually went to deep strike him right here, and he scattered 8 inches. So he's a bit exposed there, but that's the nature of scatter. The other one failed to show up. And then over here, these guys sort of moved out a little bit, just kind of away from these targets over here. Exocrine sort of moved up a bit there. And these guys just sort of tucking themselves in behind the ruins. Right then, so shooting for the Tyranids. End of Tyranid turn 2. Been a good turn for the Tyranids. Definitely taking the upper hand, but lots of potential left in this Space Wolves force. And as they close the gap, they're really going to start bringing the hurt on the Tyranids. So it's going to be interesting to see how this develops into the next couple of turns. But shooting phase. So, oh yeah, I should mention Psychic. Nothing happened of any note at all. So we went straight through to the shooting phase. This guy snap firing because of jinking last turn. Fired into this guy, looking to get first blood. Nothing. Inflicted 4 wounds, but all saves made. Then what we had was this Hive Tyrant firing back into the Terminators, helped out by the Carnifexes. Wiped the Terminator squad, didn't kill the Warlord. What's his name again?
No, Stormcaller.
Yeah, didn't take him out. He did break morale though. He's in range of Shadow in the Warp and he's a Psyker. So he's leadership 7, bust morale, round back 2 inches, but he's going to regroup. But that was a pretty good result. First blood for killing the Terminator squad. And then we've got this the Warlord shaken, moving back there. Over here, Exocrine fired his large blast template here. Very inviting target. Killed about 3 of them. Cover saves being made off that little bit of terrain there. And then over here, Warriors here firing with their just regular Devourers. Nicked a wound off the front of this cavalry here, although they will be closing that gap. And like I said, we've got some units that will be bringing some serious hurt to the Tyranids later on. This guy's pretty exposed, so yeah, gonna have to see how this develops. But been a good turn for the Tyranids. Let's see what the retort's going to be from the Space Wolves. Right, so movement then for the Space Wolves on their turn 2. The Wolfen have moved over here, and this guy, like I said, aimed to deep strike him over there. The scatter has brought him into their range. They've moved here, and that's probably going to hurt really badly, but oh well. Warlord's regrouped, and he's moved this way. He might be able to get a charge off here. This guy changed flight modes the previous turn, so it's very much a possibility. Thunderwolf Cavalry moving in here. These guys quite close to the Warriors. This guy quite close to the Exocrine. And then these units, again, quite slow units, just moving 6 inches over here. Right, so shooting and psychic done for the Space Wolves. In terms of psychic, power cast here inflicted the one wound on the Hive Tyrant. Over here, the Wolfen fired what they could at the Trigon. Nothing done. And then here we had various bits of shooting from these units around here. Back at that Hive Tyrant, nothing done. Oh yeah, the Plasma guy, he got hot and actually killed himself. Yeah, typical. And then over here, a little bit of fire. Again, pretty ineffective. 1 wound inflicted on that warrior at the back. Who was it? Was it these guys who inflicted that wound on that warrior on the back?
No, it's the Terminators.
So the Terminator's here. And was it this guy fired the Exocrine?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So not too effective there. But there will be some assaulting, so we'll get back to you after those assaults. Right, so your assault phase is done. About even, we reckon. Some good things have happened for the Space Wolves. Some good things have happened for the Tyranids. We'll start back here. Wolfen got into combat with the Trigon. Before the Trigon could do anything, he was just eviscerated. Literally torn to pieces. No response at all. Over here, Thunderwolf Cavalry got into combat with these guys. Tyranids did their best, but saves were made. Lots of misses from the Tyranids. Wasn't very good fighting, to be honest. And then that squad basically devastated. Just the one warrior hanging in there on 1 wound. Here, this guy braved Overwatch, made an invulnerable save. He's only on 1 wound, considering taking some damage beforehand. Braved again, made another invuln save from the Exocrine who was going first. But then, on initiative 1 with his Power Fist, hit, inflicted 2 wounds. Exocrine is down to just 3 wounds, so good results here and over here. Went better for the Tyranids here though. So Warlord got into combat with the Hive Tyrant, but then was cut down by the Hive Tyrant, initiative 5, before he had a chance to do his thing. So that is Slay the Warlord. So Tyranids, they got First Blood early on when they took out that Terminator squad. They've now got Slay the Warlord. In terms of this style Emperor's Will, only the 2 objectives on the board. So if the Tyranids now can concentrate on holding their own objective, it's going to be difficult for the Space Wolves. Mind you, potentially Slay the Warlord here and get Line Breaker down here as well. So it's definitely going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. But it's going to be a tight game. And Tyranids, they're sort of on the back foot a bit over here. They have got the advantage in terms of objectives now. So interesting to see what happens. Right, Tyranid movement. This Hive Tyrant moved 90, gone off down here. Over here, Carnifex is hardly moved the whole game, just generally sort of stayed in this area. Just moved a couple of inches over there to support the Exocrine. Then over here, this guy's still in glide, so he can assault. Hopped over 12 and is here. So in terms of these guys getting involved in the combat, really denied about it, because that means they can't fire at these guys because they're going to be, launching assaults. But then that means these guys are going to get a good chance to move up and support next turn. So it's going to be a bit touch and go as we move into the psychic phase. Psychic phase, we had Catalyst cast successfully here, so he's feeling no pain. Then we had the Horror cast over onto this squad, but they made their leadership check. Right, so in terms of shoot phase here, fire back here, a bit of lookout surge going on. This guy, the captain, has been reduced to 1. This guy's been reduced to 1. One of the Wolfen taken out. Over here, Carnifexes, they're going to launch an assault, so they're not firing. This Hive Tyrant's going to launch an assault, so he's not firing. Everything else is locked in combat, so combat's coming up. Right, so end of Tyranid turn 3. So Carnifexes got in here, just took out that last cavalryman, just took him out completely, and then these guys backed off a little bit. Over here, not so good for the Tyranids. Hive Tyrant went in, didn't really do anything. Warriors managed to finish off one of the guys, but then 2 other warriors have gone down, so this kind of combat just sort of continues as we move into Space Wolf turn 3. Right, so movement then for the Space Wolves. So the Wolfen down there, they've started moving out, got a long way to go though. It's going to be interesting. Guess they're kind of not really much call for them to stick down there now. Then over here, these units have pushed up. Are getting close to getting some charges off, but I'm not sure if they'll be able to. There's still quite a long way to go. And once again, the Flyer failed to show up on turn 3. Right, so end of the shooting phase. No Psychic, of course, Psych is dead. Fire here back at the Hive Tyrant. Didn't really do anything. Difficult to hit on those 6s. Then we had a bit of fire through here. Again, no results. And I'm guessing a run move here as well. So that was it really. Nothing happened of any consequence at all. Straight on into the assault phase. Right, assault phase. Been an interesting one. So the first thing that happened was these Terminators declared they were assaulting over here. Overwatched from the Exocrine. Landed 3 6s with the Plasma. That's 3 wounds. Making his saves. He's got invuln saves. Also cover there as well. Rolled 1s and 2s. So 3 of the Terminator squad just went down to Overwatch. Unprecedentedly good shooting there from the Exocrine. Really, really impressive there. And then over here, kind of the opposite. Actually really weird one. So we had 36 shots from the Carnifexes, because they have so much DACA. Inflicted a whole ton of wounds, and these guys were out here. Then just rolled all of his saves, so that worked out pretty well. They then got into combat, and what's the character's name?
Lucas the Trickster.
Yeah, the Trickster. He then had a challenge against the lead Carnifex, knocked him down to 1 wound. Carnifex killed him in retaliation of instant death. But then he has a special rule where if he loses in a challenge, if he's killed in a challenge, you roll off, and the roll off meant the Carnifex died as well. So that was interesting. Then in terms of combat, rest of the squad hit, did nothing on the Carnifexes. Carnifex hit back, only 4 of them left. Made their leadership though, so that combat continues. So we got, and this one as well. One of the Thunderwolf cavalry taken out. That combat's just continuing as well. Both of them have been knocked down to 1 wound though, and some of the warriors have been wounded as well. So yeah, interesting point in the game. Time now for turn 4 on the Tyranids. Right then, so movement for the Tyranids. No movement really down to here. Has arrived from reserve, and he's popped up where that one meant to, so he's pretty well sheltered, and he can start moving out and doing things next turn. Changing flight modes, and he's sort of popped himself over there. Gonna try and get some shots off here, but he's also very wary of these guys. And yeah, that's it for movement. Probably gonna skip straight on into shooting and psychic together. So it's a disappointing shooting round for the Tyranids. We had the Exocrine firing the streams rather than the blast. 6 shots, inflicted 2 wounds, made them both from the storm shield. So that was a bit disappointing. These units, of course, locked in combat. Over here, this guy, we've agreed that because he's sort of hiding down behind the wall, he can't see any targets. They're not going to fire at him. He's not going to fire at them. The Hive Tyrant though fired. Only the one save failed. Wasn't the best round of shooting we've seen from Hive Tyrants. Normally those Twinning Devours, we know how devastating they can be. Shown that already in this match. Only the 1 casualty, so a bit disappointing there. Time now for the assault phase though. Right, so in terms of assault phase, gone well for the Tyranids. So we had this combat in here. Last of the Thunderwolf cavalry cut down. And then these guys just consolidated back slightly, wary of these guys. Here, these guys, they launched quite a few attacks, did nothing to the Carnifexes. Carnifexes hit back, killed 2 of them, and then these 2 have broken and fallen back. over here. So we're in a pretty strong place, the Tyranids. However, next turn, have got something coming on from reserve for the Space Wolves. We've still got the Wolfen, who are a massive threat. It's going to be interesting. The game definitely isn't over yet. Space Wolves still got some strong units left as they respond on their turn 4. Right, movement for the Space Wolves on their turn 4. These units are pushed up here. Wolfen continuing their march up here. We can run an assault, remember, so potentially could be seeing some charges off here. We know how nasty they can be. And they've got these guys who they can tactically use to just eat Overwatch. So it's a pretty good position for the Space Wolves there. Over here, we have put him back slightly. Should be a little bit further up, but quite an awkward model on the base there. But we've got this guy on from reserve who's going to bring some pain down on the Hive Tyrant. So yeah, things are looking interesting. As I said, for the Space Wolves, definitely on the back foot, but they've got this unit that can now run up and hopefully get some brutal assaults off. These guys, Terminators, wouldn't count them out of it. And then over here, if this goes well for them, this could be quite the comeback on for the Space Wolves. So see how this turn goes. It's going to be a clutch turn, really important turn for them. Right, so shooting phase for the Space Wolves over. So here's some pretty ineffective shooting, didn't do anything. Here we've had a wound knocked off the Exocrine, back down to 3, had regenerated 1 earlier in the match. Over here though, the real interesting thing. So we had fire from this squad over here, knocked Hive Tyrant down to 1 wound, hanging on in there. Thought he was going to be dead basically, I thought that was it. However, launched shooting here from this, declared he was going to jink, declared he was going to evade, made every single one, managed to hang in there. So that was really ridiculous rolling basically from the Hive Tyrant. Just, you know, should be dead. But then he was a little bit unlucky in terms of taking wounds from over here. So maybe you'd say on balance, hanging in was not the most ridiculous thing. But when he was down to 1, should really have gone after that. So we've been lucky there, the Tyranids. Next up is going to be the assault phase. Right, so I said at the start of the turn this was going to be an important one for the Space Wolves. They've come back with a vengeance because they had a really good turn. They've made things really interesting at the end. So what you had was the Wolfen got in here, did lose a guy, but ultimately, and the small squad here, they were wiped out by Overwatch. But yeah, the Wolfen, they've wiped out those 2 Carnoff X's. Space Marines here, the Terminators got in, and yet once again they did lose a man, but they've also taken down the Exocrine. So 3 massive monstrous creatures cleared out there. Really interesting. Not sure what's going to happen here. You've got a fully loaded Dakka Tyrant right here. So that's a massive threat for the Tyranids. But equally, these units are pretty strong units. There's only the Warriors, the only thing there. So that's interesting down there. This end of the board, we've got the Warlord. He's still there hanging on 1 wound. We might be able to regenerate 1. This thing could potentially take him out next turn. You've also got fire from these guys. And you've got this guy at the moment who's claiming Linebreaker. So really too close to call at this stage. Game can end at the end of next turn as we move into turn 5. Right, movement then. Bold move from this Tyrant. He's jumped up here. He's going to get some shooting off, hopefully. Might be able to do a little bit of psychic shenanigans as well. Then over here, these guys, they've just thrown themselves on the objective. Got to try and hold it. And then over here, this Tyrant, he's jumped over here trying to get out of line of sight, and he's going to hopefully try and take this guy out. He's now up to 2 wounds, regenerated 1. This guy, just going to sit here, try and get Linebreaker. So that is it then for movement. Psychic phase coming on up. Right, so shooting phase is over. Been good shooting phase. Fired back here, cleared out tons of the Wolfen. This guy's still left alive, but we will get an assault. And we have their high initiative, so hopefully we can take him out there. Has got a Storm Shield. Maybe I'll regret that. That's actually quite a risky move. We'll see. Over here, fire from these guys. Did actually take out a Terminator. That was quite good. And then over here, fired everything he had. Snap firing because he jinked last turn. But fired everything he had at the flyer and did no damage. This guy stays put over here. So that is it for turn 5 now. Except for the assaults, actually. Almost forgot. So, assault phase coming up. Right, so, assault phase here. Risky move. Tried it. Thought odd. Got successful. Thought he had been taken out, but then remembered he got feel no pain. Made one of his feel no pains, so he survived 1 wound. Hit back there, and he's taken 3 wounds off the Hive Tyrant. So, ooh, not too good. Not too good at all. But at the same time, just about hanging in there. And now it's time for turn 5 for the Space Wolves. Then we've got to see if the game ends. So pretty close, pretty close. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Right, movement phase. So shooting up here, trying to take these guys out. Moving around there as well. We're getting ready for a charge. Stuck in combat. Little bit of rejinking over here, shuffling down, making sure they control that objective. And then over here, Hive Torrent has just sort of been left, and they've got a bit of jinking around to sort of try and get shots on him. Shooting phase on their turn 5 for the Space Wolves. Fire at the Hive Torrent. Did nothing. Although he did declare he was evading, so that was good news there. Over here, fire from the Flyer. Took out the first of the Tyranids, but the second guy hung in there. And what we have is a contested objective here. So as the game stands currently, it's actually a draw. But I mean, in all likelihood, statistically, chances are the game should go through to another turn. So that'll be interesting. But as it stands, this is now contested, so that's nothing. This is held by the Space Wolves, so that's 3. But then the Tyranids have all of the secondaries, and the Space Wolves currently have none of the secondaries. So that means it's a 3-all draw. However, on is it 3-up? Game goes to turn 5, right?
It's 4-up, isn't it?
No, it's 4-up on turn 6, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, so there's a 66% chance that the game will continue, in which case it doesn't really matter. Anyway, we've got the assault phase, then we'll have that roll to see if it continues. And if the assault phase goes well, it could be that it's looking like the Space Wolves will win. So we'll have to see how this goes. Right, end of the assault phase. So, that Hive Tyrant to start with was on full wounds, and this guy was 1 Wolfen. So 1 Wolfen took out a Hive Tyrant on his own over 2 rounds of combat. So in terms of how powerful Wolfen are, 1 of them can take out a Hive Tyrant on their own. The Hive Tyrant, we tooled up, that Hive Tyrant is like 250, 260 points. Yeah. So that goes how to show just how potent the Wolfen are. Admittedly, they're a little bit vulnerable to shooting, but in terms of their combat potential, just a crazily powerful unit. Anyway, I digress. So that wrapped up that combat. Over here, tried to launch the assault, failed to make it. Quite a long distance to make there. So that is the end of turn 5. So this is how it stands. As we've said, this is nothing. This is 3 inches and 3 inches. This is contested. Because I was unbound, don't get objective secured. So to people who say, you know, like, well, that shows the value of objective secured, basically. Over here, this is still being held by the Space Wolves. So 3-0 on primaries. On secondaries, the Space Wolves didn't get any. The Tyranids got First Blood. They got Slay the Warlord for taking out the Warlord here and that Terminator unit to start with. And they quite convincingly have Linebreaker down here. So that makes it 3-all. So if the game ends, it's a draw. If the game continues, well, we'll have to see. So, roll us up a dice here. 3-up. Does the game continue? Game ends. Congratulations. GG. To a handshake. Nice to say. Yeah, good game. So, that concludes things. So, we'll just have a little discussion and we'll sort of wrap things up. Right, so we've had a bit of a discussion about it. It's been a fantastic game. Really, really close, really, really tight. It's gone back and forth. There's been moments, sort of Space Wolves have had the upper hand. You know, great swings in the game. It's been really, really good. We don't want to leave it there. Now, the game is a draw. That is guaranteed. That's nailed on. The line under that is a draw. The handshake's been done. That's a draw. No dispute there at all. However, just to see what would have happened, just for a bit of fun, we're going to play out turn 6 and 7. So we're going to see what would have happened. So we predict these guys are probably going to go over, take this objective. These guys are probably going to go, well, they will take this objective. What's going to happen if we had 2 more turns? Let's just see, just for a bit of fun. If you're going to check out at this stage, though, thanks very much for watching. But get back to you with those last 2 turns. But we will switch to reporting at the end of the turn now, just to save a bit of time. Right then, so end of turn 6 then for the Tyranids. Moved in, crushed that squad, holding that objective now. Good stuff. But now we've got to see what the Space Wolves do at the end of their turn. Right, so end of turn 6. So if the game had gone on this far, what would have happened? We had fire, this thing in hover moved over here, and fire over here did nothing to these targets. Which means that the Tyranids hold this one. Then down here was taken out. Just they played in this one really easily. So what that means, if the game had continued, that this is how it would have worked out. 3 points here for the Space Wolves, but now 3 points here for the Tyranids. No line breaker, but they still have the secondaries. So that would have meant if the game had gone on to turn 6 and ended now, it would have been a 5-3 victory for the Tyranids. Let's see what would have happened if it had gone to turn 7. Right, so end of turn 7, we just did them together because there's not too much to report. So Hive Tyrant had jumped himself over here, fired at this thing, knocked a whole point off it, but then charged into combat, and yeah, again, just couldn't take it out. Rock solid these flyers, 12 all round, a bit like a Storm Raven. Yeah, and then in terms of it, just decided to sort of call it here. Actually, a tactical error from the Tyranid players, tactical error from me, but in fairness, the game is over, so, you know, maybe I wasn't paying as close attention as I should. What happened was this squad was here, had a chance to assault it, decided not to assault it, and then what he's done on turn 7 is just move around and claim the objective, which, you know, I obviously should have foreseen, but didn't really think about it, so an error there from the Tyranid players. But yeah, essentially, if the game had ended like that then, they now hold this one. These guys have objectives secured as a tube choice. They hold this one. So with that tactical error, you know, if I hadn't made that error, if I'd assaulted, taken them out, consolidated back, then potentially, yeah, it could have been still a Tyranid win. But with that error, that actually makes it a Space Wolves win at the end of turn 7. So essentially, what you've got then is it finished on turn 5 as a draw. Turn 6, it finished as a Tyranid win. Turn 7, if I hadn't have made that mistake, I don't know, did make that mistake, finished as a Space Wolves win. So I think overall we're saying a draw is actually a pretty fair result, because clearly that shows it's so close. And you know, and you look at what both sides have got left, you know, handful of nothing, 2 big monstrous creatures, the flyer, kind of these quite tough units, which are still really recent. Yeah, so it's been a complete bloodbath. You know, there's the Space Wolves dead pile over there. The Tyranid dead pile's also looking pretty bloody. Both sides just completely annihilated each other. And yeah, a draw is a really fair result. It's been a cracking game though. Thanks very much for watching, guys. We'll see you soon with another one. Bye for now.